So installment number 2 of our programming talk.
Yep.
We already talked about it a little bit.
Flip that down a little bit more.
What?
I feel like it's flipped up a little bit from when you wrote on it.
I don't know if it's actually on the camera or not. Maybe that might just be more for us than.
Oh. Okay. Never mind.
Which we already talked about, and we're going to talk about it again because Jason wasn't here
Gosh. when
we talked about it the first time. So everybody has to change their Sunday night because Jason didn't get the memo. So the current cycle is going to run from, and we're obviously shooting this at the end of week 1. Which what are we thinking, like midweek for this, Jason? Yeah. Okay. So the current cycle is going to run from July 29th through September 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, which I think is 8 weeks, but I could be wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks. So we'll break down. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 real themes. I like official themes because I didn't put Saturday up there because Saturday is kind of more like a vibe type of thing.
Yeah.
So 7 real themes that we'll talk about, and then we'll talk about which day that it kind of falls on, and some intrinsics about it, and then kind of go from there. So to start off with the squatting, which even after week 1, I feel like there's been a pretty cool amount of like hype behind because we've been kind of pitching it a little bit. So July 29th, we obviously had them test their 1 rep max back squat, and then we did that AMRAP set at 85%. That ideally was kept to somewhat of a tempo. And then with that 85% number, we're going to break them down into 2 categories, which is going to be the high neuromuscular efficiency, which means that you got less than 4. So it's like an opposites thing, which can be confusing. Mm-hmm. So if you have high neuromuscular efficiency, that means you got low reps, and if you have low neuromuscular efficiency, that means you have you got a high amount of reps. So we're calling that the cut line. So if people ask in the future, or people watching this, was I high or low? We're calling 4 or below high neuromuscular efficiency, and we're calling 5 and up low neuromuscular efficiency. So that's like our official position on it. Mm-hmm. So then with that, we've got 2 separate squat programs that and we're going to continue to post the video where it kind of explains what neuromuscular efficiency is and how they can figure out what theirs are as we're squatting. But we've got, for people with high, a 3x9, 4x7, 5x5, 6x3, and people with low, 3x12, 4x10, 5x8, and 6x6. So we're going to be squatting twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. Each rep scheme we're going to run through 3 times with the goal of adding 5 to 20 pounds, depending on who you are, obviously, 5 to 20 pounds on top of your previous exposures to that rep scheme. So we just did the 3x9 on Friday, so we're going to do that 2 more times. And as we start to progress through that, we're still going to have the percentages attached to it, and we usually do like a 2.5 to 5% increase. But the way that we're going to pitch that as coaches is just beat it. We don't actually care if it's 2.5 or 5 or 10%. If it almost changes your life, if you saw God when you did it, add 5 pounds. You know what I mean? And people probably won't get that feeling until week 3, based on the percentages. But hey, remember what? And in Wodify, they'll be able to refer back to the dates, and we're gonna put refer back to August 5th to beat that number. You know what I mean? So as coaches and as athletes also, instead of just putting what somebody got, like what weight they used, maybe we can get them to start to associate some feelings with it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I did a 3x9 at 275 and it was really easy, or I did a 3x9 at 275 and it was a 12 of 10 difficulty. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I'm going to go any heavier. You know what I mean? And that can really, give us different, ideas on what somebody should be doing in the following week. Because obviously we don't want people to fail. But that person that did 275 and it almost, killed them, even just going 280 is going to be an improvement and a progression. And chances are, because it's going to be so organized, they're going to do the 280 and they're like, that was easier than I remember it being, because they're going to have gotten some exposure to it. So so that's kind of the gist of that. So we're going to go through those 4 days 3 total times. Is it raining? No.
Is that what
So that's our double leg strength stuff. And this is the first time that I've ever seen a CrossFit do like a high neuromuscular efficiency versus low neuromuscular efficiency rep range in a class. So I'm excited to see how this goes. We've all done squat cycles before, and we've all like been at gyms, I think, where we've done squat cycles before, and it'll be like, 40% of the population will have like a 40-pound PR, and then 60% of or 50-50. 50% will have this huge PR, and the other 50% will have their back squat decrease by 10 pounds. Yeah. That probably has something to do with the neuromuscular efficiency piece. Obviously, like, we're not controlling all other aspects of recovery and how they're eating and how they're sleeping, but there's a strong possibility that like even split between squat cycles and whether or not they work in groups is because people are just applying one rep range and one percentage range for people with opposite ends of the spectrum neuromuscular efficiency capabilities. So it'll be cool to see how many people PR their squat with this, and I think that we'll be pleasantly surprised.
Is the percentage staying the same each week then?
No, 2.5 to 5% increase. So then on the opposite of Mondays, so our conditioning on Mondays, and we kind of like named this last time, I think we called them inclusive sets, which is us suggesting that there's a weightlifting component, a gymnastics component, and a monostructural component within every set. So it's like inclusive regarding the components of CrossFit. Last cycle we had these on Fridays, and people recall like it would be like I just said, it would be like a barbell, like a snatch. I think we did some snatching, we did some heavy power cleaning, and some moderate weight shoulder to overhead, and then we would have like either pistols or chest to bar or toe to bar or bar muscle ups, and then we would have a machine. Then last time through we had 3 minutes of rest for 3 total sets. What we're doing this time, we moved the inclusive sets to Monday instead of Friday. Now, alternating weeks, and I'll give some examples of this. Alternating weeks, and the way that I wrote it down was we're alternating between sets progressing off of last cycle and tester style AMRAPs. So, for example, on July 29th, we did 8 power cleans, 16 strict handstand push-ups, and a 20/16 calorie bike erg, 2 minutes rest times 3 sets. That, to me, I would describe that as like an organized, inclusive set, because from a volume perspective, we know everyone's getting 24 power cleans in, everyone's getting 48 strict handstand push-ups in, and like we know what everybody's doing, so it's really easy to like progress that. Where tomorrow, August 5th, just for example, is a 10-minute AMRAP of three squat snatches at 135-95, 9 toes to bar, and 12/10 calorie echo or row. So they look similar, right? Because we have the snatches, we have the power cleans, weightlifting movement, we have the gymnastics movement, toe to bar and handstand push-ups, and then we have the calories, the monostructural movement, rowing or bike erging, right? But there's going to be a little bit more leniency on how much volume people are getting of it based on their fitness, right? So we're kind of alternating back and forth between like a tester style, which we're like letting go of some control as far as like how people are getting their exposure in, just to kind of make it more challenging. Because if you think about it like this, if you think of to go to July 29th's workout, we had the power cleans, the handstand push-ups, and the bike erg. Then we had 2 minutes rest times 3 sets. Mm-hmm. So we were able to, as coaches, we were able to assume that people are going to be able to move through the power cleans in a certain way, because everyone was coming off of 2 minutes rest, and that was the first thing that they were hitting. Right. Where with this 10-minute AMRAP, I mean, after you finish the first round, it's just a clusterfuck now. You know what I mean? Like, there's no organized rest. It's going to be a little bit slower. The intensity might be brought down a little bit, but it's going to be a lot more sport-specific relative to what CrossFit asks for without that rest. So next to that, the way that so last cycle we had the inclusive sets, and it was 3 minutes for 3, and we had 3 minutes rest between sets for 3 sets. This week, the organized ones that we do have, which again is going to be alternating back and forth, is 2 minutes rest times 3 sets. So we made it a little bit more challenging with less rest. Then on top of that, what we're going to play around with the first 3 weeks of this is going to go strength, speed, movement. So whether that be a power clean or a shoulder overhead or a snatch, followed by a gymnastics, followed by a monostructural movement. Then we're going to get into 1 week of monostructural movement, then gymnastic, then strength, speed, movement. And you don't think like the untrained brain might not think that that's a big deal, but if you think about, we'll take that power clean workout, or better yet, we'll take this shoulder overhead workout. So, written in the order of strength, speed, gymnastics, monostructural. The workout is 8 shoulder overhead at 155. Okay, let's think about what that feels like and looks like. 20 chest to bar and 16/12 calories on the skier with 2 minutes rest between sets times 3 sets. Well, what if the workout was written in reverse order? 16/12 calorie ski, 20 chest to bar, 8 shoulder overhead. What is that going to do to the shoulder overhead? Now unbroken shoulder overhead might be a little bit of a game changer. Yeah. It might be easier for some people. It might be harder for some people. Well, what if then we put gymnastics in front? So 3, 2, 1, go. You got to do 20 chest to bar, then 8 shoulder overhead, then so you can see how we can have the same 3 movements, and if we just change the order, it kind of changes the complexity of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're going to kind of play around with that a little bit also, and we're going to get mixed feedback, which will be fun to hear. You know, which one did you think was easier? And we're going to be able to start to associate like if it's a weightlifting movement, then a gymnastics movement, then a monostructural movement. You know, the weaker person is going to think that that's easier because they're getting the hardest thing out of the way. Where you know, and we could take Mick for an example, like, because your shoulder overhead is tricky at times, right? So like if you were to do 8 shoulder overhead, 20 chest to bar, 16 calorie ski, okay, that looks and feels a certain way. But then if it was 16 calorie ski, 20 chest to bar, then the 8 shoulder overhead, you're like, oh shit. Yeah. Where somebody who's a little bit stronger might appreciate that a little bit more because they're able to build a little bit of a lead. You know what I mean? So it's cool how just like changing the order of things can make things less or more complex, which we're going to play with that in this cycle also. Now, with all that being said, and just to kind of prove a point, not prove a point, but make a point, when we do these inclusive sets, that's referring to them having rest also. And we can really, really organize like what somebody's doing first in the set, what somebody's doing second in the set, what somebody's doing third in the set. What about this? 10-minute AMRAP of 3 hang squat cleans at 185, 125, 9 chest to bar, and 12 bar facing burpees as a 10-minute AMRAP. That doesn't matter what the order is because after the first round, it's just done. And now you're just going, and now, you know, after we'll call it the first couple minutes, now fatigue is just accumulating on top of everything. It might suck a little bit having to go from burpees to hang squat cleans, but like even if it went burpees, chest to bar, then hang squat cleans, what does the chest to bar buy you? 10 seconds before you get onto the hang squat cleans. So it's not quite as much as like the true inclusive sets where we have the organized rest. So just kind of showing you guys the difference, like in saying 3 sets with 2 minutes rest between sets and 3 exercises, and then having those same 3 exercises and saying 10-minute AMRAP, it actually changes the dynamic of the workout aggressively. More than just how CrossFit would sometimes make us think, which would be like, how do they say it? Like a time priority versus a work priority. You know, how do they?
Task priority versus time priority.
Task priority versus work priority, and we're almost like CrossFit HQ kind of like sells that as being this like really important difference, and like, I mean, there is a difference, but that's not the important difference. Yeah. The important difference is because a lot of times that'll lead people to be like, I'm good at AMRAPs and I'm bad at rounds for time. Right. Well, no, that's a very rudimentary way to think.
Right.
Like, what actually are we bad at? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That'd be like somebody telling you, you know, I'm really bad at running 5Ks. Like, are you bad at running in general? Maybe like let's have a conversation about your running, not just running 5Ks. You know what I mean? So that's Monday.
Is that so? Like
Monday's the most complex day. So
last cycle we were like building on the chest bar.
Yep.
Is this similar at all? Like
building
on any specific movement?
Nope. No, the inclusive sets, everything kind of rotates around. Okay. So we're not building around any one specific movement because we swapped the days. So Fridays we're going to be building around a movement. So for this Monday we're not building around any one specific movement. We're building around like an organization type, I guess you can say it, plus the double leg stuff. Okay. So moving on to Tuesdays. So this cycle is going to be we're gonna start to like coin our own phrases, kind of like the inclusive sets.
I love this one.
So instead of saying what we've been, which is maximum aerobic power, which you know, for you know extended periods of time, probably over a little over a decade, you know, OPEX has done a very good job about coining that and then being able to have conversation around that, and everybody kind of knows what we're talking about. We're gonna talk. We're gonna start referring to our aerobic work as aerobic sustainability training, aka AST. So we're not going to be. I'm not going to refer to it as MAP work anymore. I'm going to refer to it as AST work. So this is AST 3, which is 3 minutes of work for a bunch of exposure, and we won't go into the specifics on why aerobic work and why you know, AST stuff or MAP stuff is so valuable in exposing aerobic systems to specific time frames, because we talked about that. That's probably what we spent the majority of the time last video talking about. So we won't talk about that. So if somebody's interested in why this style of interval sustainable work is so valuable, then go back to the last video and watch some of that. But you know, 16 to 8 weeks ago, we did 10 minutes on, 5 minutes off for 3 sets. Mm-hmm. Then last week to 8 weeks ago, so 1 to 8 weeks ago, we did 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off times 5 sets. And then now, for the next 8 weeks, we're going 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off for 6 sets. And actually, I should take that back. At the halfway point, we're going to make it even more challenging, and we're going to take a minute of rest away. So you guys can see 3 minute on, 3 minute off times 6 sets with 5 minutes rest halfway. Then we're going to move into, at the halfway point, 3 minutes on, 2 minutes off times 6 sets with still that little reset point at the halfway mark with that 5 minutes rest. So we're trying something a little bit new, and it should be cool. You know, when we talk about, you know, minimum dose exposure and what's needed in order to continue to, you know, not necessarily get better at something, but not have any you know, I don't know if we would call it like augmentation or no deterioration of something, right? Yeah. So if let's say, you know, running is always easy to talk about. So if we did a running cycle and we got really, really good at running because we were running 4 days a week, right? Well, that's not sustainable. We're not going to want to continue to run 4 days a week. So at some point in time, you're going to want to drop that off, but you want to try. The goal would be to find how much running you need to continue to do so that the running improvement, the improvement that you made from running 4 times a week, doesn't drop off. So that's called minimum dose exposure. What's the minimum dose exposure so that we don't see a detriment in the adaptations that we incurred over the last training cycle. So going back to Monday's last training cycle, we did a lot of stuff around the chest to bar, and the goal was to get people really good at doing chest to bar, coupled with different types of fatigue, coupled with different, you know, before things, after things, with less aggressive contractions, more aggressive contractions. So now that people are feeling pretty good about chest to bar, we're going to go and we're actually going to put chest to bar in our aerobic sustainability training days, but at a very, very low volume, which ideally we're going to hit the minimum dose exposure requirement, so that we don't have to make it a chest to bar day in order to keep our chest to bar gains where they're at. So we're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, right? So we're on these aerobic sustainability training days, and we're doing it with strict handstand push-ups as well. So you can see I wrote low volume strict handstand push-up and chest to bar, and it's low volume on the high skill stuff, because last cycle we built some tolerance and we built some abilities around that. So now we're able to ask for some sustainability. But now the goal is going to be to keep people good at chest to bar without having to do a shitload of chest to bar in workouts, so that we can work on a different movement, which we'll talk about on Friday. Does that kind of make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be kind of cool, and that's really the goal. And you know, there's a lot of different ways that we can break down like what getting good at CrossFit or fitness is. And one of the coolest ways to think about is the goal is to make as complex of contractions as possible aerobic. So if you look at the people that are best at the sport of CrossFit, you know, we can refer to Rich Froning, and I don't know what year that it won't be cool to refer to Rich Froning anymore because he's old. But if you look at Rich Froning, like, you know, if we look at, you know, what his heart rate does on 185-pound power snatches, it looks very aerobic in nature. You know what I mean? Where like if one of us had to hit a 185-pound power snatch in a workout, there's going to be a huge you know, spike in our heart rate and as far as our fuel sources go, the fuel sources might shift a little bit, where he's so strong and he's so skillful and he's so aerobically powerful that aggressive movements have become aerobic, and that's why he can sustain things. You know what I mean? So this is going to be kind of us playing around with aggressive movements, trying to get them to become aerobic, like handstand push-ups and like chest to bar, while also working on our aerobic sustainability, while also trying to hit that minimum dose requirement for those movements, so that we don't see a detriment in the skills that we built over the last training cycle. So like chances are, like over the last 8 weeks on Mondays, people, especially the first couple weeks, were like, man, my lats are blown up, I'm sore. We did 60 chest to bar, like in a small period of time, I'm sore. Chances are we're not going to get that same feedback on the Tuesday stuff, because the volume's not going to be there. But again, that's not the goal. The goal is not to make these chest to bar workouts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that should be cool.
What's like the volume that like you would expect us to be hitting on like Tuesday?
It's going to be different for everybody, because they are AMRAPs, and like I said, with AMRAPs, you know, the you kind of give up a little bit of control. You know what I mean? Right. So it's going to be very different for everybody. But anywhere from like this last Tuesday, I think people were getting like 3 rounds in, 3 plus. So I think people were getting like 20. So people were probably getting 40 to 60 chest to bar in over the duration of the 3 AMRAPs, which is not a little bit of chest to bar.
Yeah.
But the goal would be, and we'll talk about this more with the bar muscle up stuff, but the goal kind of is to, you know, make it so that, you know, that minimum that threshold for like, yeah, that's not many, just creeps up higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, to a point where like some, you know people that like take the classes can look at a workout and they're like, there's only 80 chest to bar in this. That's cool. You know what I mean? Where like, you know, times ago it'd be like, fuck, 80 chest to bar, that's so many. And that's obviously I'm exaggerating, but I'm, you know, to prove a point or to make a point. So that's Tuesdays. So Tuesdays, again, just from like the brass tacks of it, and they're going to be very, very low rep. You know, this up August 6th, you know, 200 meter run, then with remaining time of 3 minutes, 3 handstand push-ups, 6 box jumps, 9 wall balls. So you're able to go. And that's how all of these will be. That's how aerobic sustainability stuff generally is going to tend to look, because we don't want things to start to become too muscular and people slow down because of their muscular fatigue. So it's going to be very, very low rep, you know, high round relative to the time frame, so that they can actually get their heart rate up in the way that we want them to. So moving on to Wednesday. So if you guys recall, the last 8 weeks, on Mondays we did the snatch work, and for lack of a better word, it was kind of complexes that we made less complex, because we started off with a 1 rep max snatch, then we did 3 power snatches with a 3-second pause below the knee, and then we advanced, and then all the way to 1 squat snatch with a pause below the knee. And then on Wednesdays, we did a similar concept, but not really, with cleans, where we had these more complex clean complexes that we simplified, and then we built to a 1 rep max hang clean. So that was very, you know, as far as the system goes, and as far as, you know, the organism of people and of our gym members, because they're all, you know, if we're talking about, you know, exercise stress, like we're all organisms, that was very stressful. You know what I mean? Like max out in this, build to heavy in that.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of pull the reins back a little bit on our strength speed stuff, and we're going to be doing some percentage work. Really, really simplified percentage work. So if you guys recall, this Wednesday that just passed was an 8-minute EMOM of 2 snatches at 70%. This Wednesday coming up is going to be an 8-minute EMOM of 2 cleans at 70%. Then we're gonna alternate back and forth between snatches and cleans, and from week to week. And then we're just gonna look to add 3 to 5% for 5 weeks, and then we're gonna change up the EMOM a little bit. But the goal of this, and we can, you know, this would be important for us as coaches and important for the athletes to hear this. You know, if it feels good, let it feel good. Don't go up. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna have time to go up. You know, very often we try to have these like incredibly impossible training days where there's like a hard part A, a hard part B, a hard part C, and then plus this like awful, god awful Metcon. And even in classes, like you know, a very hard part A and then a very hard part B, and then something has to give.
Yeah.
So on Wednesdays right now, so Wednesdays conditioning is going to kind of be our like nasty conditioning for the next 8 weeks. So we don't want A to be extremely gross as well. We want people to have a little bit in the tank to be able to hit B with some intensity. So, over the last 8 weeks, we had the opportunity to talk a lot about some technical stuff in the snatch. What staying over the bar means,
Yep.
what keeping your weight on your heels throughout the pull means, that kind of stuff. So hopefully people have some stuff to think about now. So if we ask somebody who has a little bit of literacy in the movement to do an 8-minute EMOM of 2 snatches at 70%, because they've got some things to think about, they can make that fairly challenging in itself. Where if we took somebody off the street that doesn't have much literacy in the movement and we have them do an 8-minute EMOM of 2 snatches, they don't have much to think about and they're just like yanking the bar overhead, they're like, this is easy. But yeah, we're trying to focus on some things. We're trying to think about some things. So my suggestion to people in these EMOMs would be to continue to build on some of the cues that we've been using over the last 8 weeks, as far as what staying over the bar looks like, as far as where the hip placement should be when the bar is below the knee versus the hip placement with the bar above the knee. And again, we won't go into specifics of that because we went into detail on that last time. So if you didn't get a chance to check that out, I'd say go to the last video and maybe check that out. And then our conditioning for Wednesdays is going to be, for lack of a better word, open style, sports specific testers. It's going to be lots of chippers. This last week was a chipper, and when we say open style, sports specific, that's not to negate that obviously there's going to be something else that's challenged, right? Like this last week was like biking, jumping, and squatting, so it was very quad dominant. So one would say, like, well, isn't that like some quad muscular endurance? Like, yeah, it is, but we're not going to run with that theme. Yeah. The theme is sports specific, which is going to be a lot of variance and a lot of like similar to what we were talking about like yesterday on Tuesdays, where like we want people to continue to we want people to be able to move, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this Tuesday coming up, 5 rounds for time, 18/12 calories on a rower, 12 bar facing burpees, 6 power cleans at 155. Move. You're gonna be able to redline. You're not gonna want to continue to go, but there's gonna be no reason for you to stop. Go. So that's gonna be, as we start to get into, not that everybody likes to do qualifiers, not that everybody likes to compete, but as we start to get into like closer to Blacksheep games, closer to like some of the Wadapalooza qualifiers, closer to like Wadamania, that kind of stuff, that's when we like to start sprinkling in these like Wednesday style. What this Wednesday is going to be is like, hey, what are we working on here? Working on getting good at CrossFit. You know what I mean? We're not working on any I always what?
I said making it hurt.
Yeah, and I always I like to think of like CrossFit. Is somebody here?
I think that's the rain or wind.
I like to think of when we have conversations like this, there's 2 different ways that you can think about it. There's from a physiological perspective, which would be like neuromuscular efficiency conversation, aerobic sustainability conversation, that kind of stuff. And then there's also just like sports specific, like I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and we were talking about barbell cycling, and they were like, well, I'm not very good at cycling the bar. Is that neuromuscular efficiency? Like, maybe, but you're gonna have to tell me more. Either way, that'd be more of a battery thing. But like, you're gonna have to tell me more because you might just suck at cycling the bar. Like, tell me about it. Like, are you hook gripping? Are you re-gripping? Like, so there might be some skill specific stuff that's making it so that you're not able to cycle the bar well. And a lot of that holds true with a lot of this stuff. So that's kind of what Wednesday is. Wednesday is like a little bit more like we're working on. I mean, fitness obviously, but it's gonna be much more pain cavey. And it's going to be much more like sports specific, and there's not going to be like, when people are like, well, what's the goal of today? The goal is to get a good time and to kind of make it hurt. There's not necessarily like a specific physiological adaptation that we're looking for, which is sometimes the case. Thursday, we're calling it an aerobic quadathlon because it's got the run, row, ski, bike erg, so it's got 4 movements. It's going to be for just so I think that people are going to resonate with this a lot because I think people enjoyed the running progression that we did. They were ready for it to be done, but This is going to be a similar style progression where we're going to build some volume and then we're going to build some intensity. So I like to, when people have been asking like, hey, what's Thursday going to look like? It's going to look like the running stuff did, kind of a little bit, the same concept. But for this quadathlon that we did, which as a reminder was a 1K run, 100/80 calorie row, 100/80 calorie ski, 100/80 calorie bike erg, with a 45-minute time cap. It's going to look similar to that, but nowhere near as long. We're not going to build as much, you know. A 5K is a cool thing to build some like hype around because it's like it's 5K and everybody knows a 5K and a lot of people have done 5Ks before. This quadathlon we don't want to get that much hype around it. So this probably will be like a 6-week progression that we run. I think people were what did you get on Thursday?
20:02.
Was that the best time?
Yeah,
Okay,
that
so
was-
so
that
best
was
time
the
best time was 20, and then it was, you know, I think some really aerobic ladies and guys were in like the 21 to 24 range. Like I saw some really fit people get in there.
Yeah.
I think Shayla might have been in like the 22, 23 area. Some like the really taller guys that are good on machines, I think we're in the 22, 23 area. And then I think that if my memory serves me correctly, I think that a vast majority of the population was in like the mid-20s. So from a volume perspective, we're going to kind of alternate back and forth between calories and meters, just kind of change it up a little bit. But each week, we're going to build on the total amount of time that you're on each machine so that we can, build some comfort, build some fitness on the machines, and then in 6 weeks retest it and kind of see what happened.
Is the order switching at all? I forget. Like, is it always run into
The order switches every time.
Order
Yeah,
switches, okay.
But it is for sure happening again. Retesting.
Yeah, so it's happening. It's happening September 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Like it's in there, set in stone.
Okay.
Yeah, September 5th we're retesting it.
But the volume is increasing. It's not the same. Like, it's
It'll
not
be
the same
retest.
amount of calories each time.
It'll be the same exact thing.
For the
No,
test,
sorry,
yeah,
for
no.
the
The-
progression, not for the test.
Yeah, the volumes, like the running did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought you said it was staying the same.
No.
Okay.
So that brings us to Friday, which Friday is fun.
Yeah.
So
Friday's
we have the squatting, which refer back to the first 5 minutes, the double leg strength, the neuromuscular efficiency conversation, and then we're kind of playing around with the bar muscle up in a similar but not very similar way that we did with the chest to bar the last cycle. So week one, and I think it might be cool if we like give week one and then we give, which is what I gave you guys when we had this conversation last time. So basically, week one was 4 bar muscle ups, 7 shuttle run, 7/5 calorie echo, rest 1 minute between rounds times 5 rounds. So we think about what that looks like. Okay, 4 bar muscle ups. I'd say the majority of people that have bar muscle ups will probably be able to get that done unbroken. Then they got the shuttle run in, which the shuttle run doesn't really build any fatigue in anything relative to the bar muscle up, with the exception of our heart rate.
Yeah.
Similar to the echo, so it was coupled with 2 movements that don't really mess with the main movement, which is the bar muscle up in this case. Then we had rest. So similar to that conversation we had on Monday, where we were able to assume and expect that people, whatever the first movement is of the inclusive set, they're going to be able to they're hitting that fresh. So we can kind of like look for adaptations and expect adaptations amongst the population based on that knowledge. So if we fast forward 7 weeks, we've got a 16-minute AMRAP of 6 bar muscle ups, so more, 6 power snatches, so now there's more pulling, so the bar muscle up is a pull, now we're power snatching, which is a pull,
Yeah.
and 6 burpee box jumps, which has that push up. So from a muscular perspective, it could mess with some people,
Yeah.
maybe some not, but if we attached a heart rate monitor, a Moxie monitor, it would probably be more of a Moxie monitor to somebody, and then have them get bar muscle ups in, and then have them get power snatches in, and then have them get burpee box jumps in. The contraction rate, the contraction style from a respiratory perspective is going to look very similar, which is going to make it even more challenging. Like
The
you're
three movements. Very
the
simple.
three movements, just like if you think
Yeah.
about what you feel
That is
like when
very
you're doing
similar.
burpee box jumps, and like think about running, and what the breathing looks like, and what our muscles look like, and what, you know, if we broke ourselves down into like the musculature, like what the musculature is doing and what the contractions look like, and then we think about bar muscle ups. Well, what about burpee box jumps? Like that looks a lot more like a bar muscle up as far as our respiratory demands than running does, or even rowing for that matter. And power snatches also, because like bar muscle ups, almost by nature, they're kind of like singly, right? Like, because you hit a rep and then what do you do?
Different movement.
Well, I'm saying like one bar muscle up. After I hit a bar muscle up, now I have to allow myself to lower down.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I'm holding on to the bar, right? But like you can only go so fast. So like as you're coming down and back up,
It's kind of like a wall ball, I feel like.
it's kind of like a wall ball, but it's also kind of like a quick single on a power snatch,
Yeah.
right? Like I hit a power snatch, boom, and then I drop it, i.e. I'm swinging underneath the bar, right? So now I drop the bar on the power snatch, and then I grab it, and then I do it again.
Right.
Very similar. Burpee box jump. I work to get on top of the box. I get off, and I take a second. I take a breath on the floor.
Yeah.
So the contractions look very, very similar.
Mhm.
So people are going to do that workout, and they're going to be like, why is this so bad? And even
That's so true.
and even if you think about and it goes back to like you know, how we categorize things and how we want to think a little bit more advanced. You know, if the workout was 6 bar muscle ups and instead of 6 power snatches at 135.95, and because of the time frame, so remember it's a 16-minute AMRAP, right?
Yeah.
Chances are, even if you're strong, you're going singles on the power snatches.
Yeah.
Too long.
Yeah, you gotta go singles on that.
So it forces people to have a similar contraction on all three movements. What if, instead of 6 bar muscle ups and 6 power snatches and 6 burpee box jumps, what if instead of the 6 power snatches at 135.95, it was 16 at 75.55? The movement didn't change, but because the weight did, the contraction did.
Yeah.
That would be significantly easier. This is going to be one of those workouts, mark my words, this is going to be one of those workouts that people are going through it and they're like, I can't catch my breath. Like, why can't I catch my breath? Because your body thinks you're doing the same thing for 16 minutes.
Yeah.
It's going to be but because they don't look like it, we don't think like that. Because we're like, well, no, this is pulling, and we think about like our rudimentary knowledge of like what movement patterns look like,
Right.
but we're not thinking about what the muscle contraction looks like inside the body.
Yeah.
It's going to be fucked up.
I can't wait.
But that's in 8 weeks. So
I love the Fridays.
so now and again we talked about this a couple days ago when Jason was doing whatever he was doing that he couldn't be here. So week 1 we've got, you know, 20 total bar muscle ups with some shuttle running and some echoes, right? And like, all right, shuttle runs and echoes, there's not a whole lot of like, the musculature isn't similar as far as like what muscles are getting fatigued. And the contractions look similar too, right? Like, let's think about what now that we're talking about like respiratory contractions and respiratory rate, that also looks similar. The following week we have 4 bar muscle ups, 50 dubs, and 7/5 calorie echoes. So now instead of the shuttle runs, we're going to add in dubs, which is going to be a little bit more challenging, a little bit more of like a work to rest component, kind of a little bit. It's going to be a little bit harder to slow that down and pace that out, because like shuttle running, there's probably infinite different speeds that we can run. You know what I mean? Like you can literally run like 11.1 miles per hour or 11.0 miles per hour or 10.95 miles per hour. Like it's probably infinite. With dubs, like you got to get the dubs done. The question is just like, are you going to break or not? But like if you're doing dubs for the most part. There's probably only a couple speeds that you can go. So it kind of takes away people's ability to like slow down a little bit. So we made it more challenging, also more reps. And then if we think about week 3, 16 bar muscle ups or 6 bar muscle ups, and now we're taking out the dubs. So it went shuttle run to dubs to now bar facing burpees. Now that gets into, okay, we got some pushing, which might make it a little bit harder. We've got some, now that contraction is going to start, your body thinks that you're just doing the same thing, so that's going to make it a little bit harder. And then we start to get into some more complex things. So the progression on that is we're going to have a volume progression, because by the end of the by the end of the 8 weeks, we're going to be looking at people probably getting close to 40 bar muscle ups in, which is the goal. And we talked about that the other day too, which is, you know, generally speaking, if somebody wants to be good in CrossFit, and this isn't to say like, you know, like a Jackie Kale level, like a very, very high elite, you know, level, whether it be masters or not masters, whatever. But like if you want to be a good local athlete, right, also, you got to be able to handle volume in workouts and not get trashed. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, you know, muscle ups is about 40. Pull ups is about 80 to 100. Toe to bar is about 80 to 100. Handstand push-ups is probably about 60. So part of our goal on this also is we're starting off with 20 bar muscle ups with not a lot of other fatigue and some rest, and we're trying to build our way into 40 plus bar muscle ups with fatigue. So we're kind of exposing people to not just more volume and less rest, but more challenging couples or triplets and couplets as time goes along also, which will be cool. It'll be cool to see, you know, people get just more comfortable with the movement. And with that being said, we spoke about scaling. What was the thought that you had?
I like the idea of a person sticking with, like, say they do 2 muscle ups.
Yeah.
Now that's their 2 until we move to 6, and now they do 3.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who maybe they can get one once in a while, but like it's not guaranteed. So they started out doing the burpee pull up, and then they're like, let me try it one day. I'd rather them not try it one day and keep building some capacity.
Yeah.
Instead of then jumping up and then like, oh, well, I had it one set, now I don't have another
Right,
set. Now
right.
I'm just messing the whole
Now
workout
what should I do?
Right.
Yeah.
But it also gives us a time to like let those people get some practice reps in the warm up. So it's like, hey, here's where you want to do these few reps of your bar muscle up. You're not ready in the class, but hey, practice right now. You got to do it.
Right.
And that gives them a little exposure, which I think is a good idea.
For sure. So I think that it would be cool if we had, I mean, based on what I'm thinking, we've got 3 options, right? Like RX, and you're doing the workout as prescribed, and like you're cruising with the progression that way. Scaled, but still doing the movement, but you're doing like, and I put the majority of the days, I think all the days. So everybody's on the same page up until the week of August 19th, which that Friday would be 19, 20, 21, 22, August 23. We're going to have the note in there on Wodify, scale the bar muscle up so they can be completed in 1 to 2 sets. And really, like 2 is us being generous. It should really be 1 set.
Yeah.
It should really be 1 set.
What's the highest number of bar muscle ups in a set that you have on that progression?
6.
Like 6?
Yeah, 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And if they get their 1, or they do it in 2 sets and get 2, then hopefully come August 19th, they can get either string 1 together, or if come that time, like I know Randy's a person he's got 1, but every time he tries a second, it's like you shouldn't have tried it way.
Yeah,
so you're definitely not gonna
Well,
get a second.
yeah.
But if you come right down, you really can jump right up and get another one.
Yeah.
So there's a few people that we can
There's
kind
some
of
people that can do
know,
singles.
like, hey, you do quick singles, not because you need a break, because stringing a second one's never going to happen. But I don't want you to necessarily only get 2.
Yeah.
You can literally jump up and get another one.
Right.
And so that's where we just play with the individual a little
Yeah.
bit. And I think hopefully come that time, especially if they're trying to cycle them before the class,
Right.
not in the class because they're still messing up.
Yeah, that's
Then
too much.
come the August 19th, hey, you still get 2 sets, but let's get that double that first one.
Right.
I like that.
And this led into the conversation that we can probably do a separate video completely on skill progression and what that's supposed to look like. But just to build some parameters, because I do think people are like, you know, it's tough in fitness sometimes because so little is black and white.
Yeah.
And you know, we live in a world that like people want the answer. So a lot of times people are like, and I'm sure like we've all felt it, like, so what are you saying? You know what I mean? So what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? I think a lot of times like there can be this great conversation that happens and it's like, hey, if you're this, if this, I want you to think about this, and they're like, so which one do you want me to do? And you're like, oh, that's the point. You know what I mean? So, and we could do a separate video on this, so we don't have to go too much into it. But remember we talked about, and we'll use bar muscle ups as an example.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody gets their first bar muscle up, that's not to say, like you just said, that they're ready to do them under fatigue. And really, you know, and to give some levels to it, you know, I personally like to see somebody be able to complete 20 single bar muscle ups within a training session with no time constraint before we have a conversation about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, I would write that in somebody's programming. I would be like, accumulate. So you know, let's say it's Jason. Hey, you know, I got my first bar muscle up.
Yeah.
Awesome, dope. Now week 1 of this new cycle. Week 1, it'll be written as accumulate 5.
Yeah.
Then you know, then the feedback would be cool, got it, and we're gonna assume that the feedback is all good, right? So then week 2, it would be like accumulate 8, then accumulate 12, accumulate 16, accumulate 20. Yo, how did you do? Any misses? No misses. I got it done. Cool. Now let's go back down to 10 and let's try an EMOM maybe. You know what I mean? And we kind of build some consistency like that.
Yeah.
And that's a good example. If anybody has bar muscle ups,
Yeah.
but they're like, you know, they're hearing what Mick's saying, they're like, well then when should I do it and what should I do? That would be a good place to start. Do 5. Like, not for time. Like casually do 5, and then the next time you try, do a couple more until you can get to 20, and then you can start to look to add some time components.
Yeah.
But that would be another great video that we could do to kind of like show
I think
people
that's a great
some the way on how to build some consistency on movements like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with like rope climbs and stuff like that too.
So to go along with what Mick's saying, you know, and we talked about this with the back squat, like, don't just put in what you did, but how it felt.
Mm-hmm.
If you're scaling, put in what you did.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, put in exactly what you did so that the following week we can make sure that, like you're saying, we're comparing apples to apples and we're progressing the way that we should, and that's why we have Wodify. We're gonna start canceling people's Wodify accounts if they don't use
If you don't
it.
put your scores in, or you don't sign in the for the bar muscle up, and this kind of goes along with like what you were saying about the scaling. Would you rather see more people like, and we're talking about people that are not like at a point where they're getting bar muscle ups? Would you rather see them do burpee pull-ups and progress, just building volume and like their capacity on that, or like a strict pull-up or something like that? I guess it kind of depends. Like, obviously, like guys might be able to do strict pull-ups differently than like girls with like jumping and pull.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say burpee pull-up, because going back to like what we were talking about with that 16-minute AMRAP on what like contractions look like, a burpee pull-up from a contractile perspective looks and a respiratory perspective looks a lot more like to the organism,
right,
like a bar muscle up than a strict pull-up does.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to get the heart rate up in a similar fashion.
right.
Which actually proves the point, like we were talking, and I didn't even think about that, but it proves the point of like how burpee box jumps and bar muscle ups are very similar. I mean, we literally scale burpee pull-ups to burpee bar muscle ups
That is, yeah.
for a
That's a
reason.
good
You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
it shows that the burpee box jump is very similar in nature as far as the contraction goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you gonna have, say on Wednesday, a scaled and intermediate division?
We could. We'll do that. Yeah.
Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday we had it.
Thursday
Wednesday
we
we
had
Oh
it.
yeah, Thursday we
Yeah.
did. Yeah. Did you? Was that a last minute thing?
No.
You'd have that in there.
It worked, I think, well, and there's a few people who didn't do it.
Yeah.
And you saw them come to ski or the bike, like, you fucked up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
You did
I
that
think
100 on the
especially on the
rower when you
Yeah.
were fresh.
Yeah.
Especially the ski.
Yeah,
like
they
that
were-
can really wreck people.
And that's something I think if we let them know, hey, either you guys really fucked this up and you need to go back a division,
Yeah.
or maybe you just came out a little hot, make those adjustments, but don't just mess up this whole 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And
you
try
want
to be
able
RX
hold the
when
right
you would really be
intensity.
able to push more intensity in intermediate.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the people who adjusted, they stayed a little more intense, but you've seen the people, they weren't even pushing anything come the time they got on the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Specifically on like the calories for Wednesday, or
Yep.
okay.
Specifically on the calories.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Are you gonna do that one?
Which one?
Wednesday.
What's
Oh
Wednesdays?
yeah, I'm down.
What's
I mean,
Wednesday?
It's 50 cal bike, 30 box jump over 25. I don't know.
talking about the one that just passed.
25
I did that
No,
one.
the one
No,
that's
one's
coming
coming.
Wednesday.
Oh, that's in 2 weeks.
That's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, 100 / 80 cal echo. Here, let's run through Wednesdays real
Yeah,
quick to get people excited.
Wednesdays are
So
something.
we did this past Wednesday. The Wednesday coming up, Is this gonna be done by then, or are we just like wasting our time on talking about this?
No pressure.
It'll be done. I'll make sure
Oh,
it'll be
okay.
done.
We heard it here. It's gonna be done.
If you guys see this on Thursday, you know
5.
why.
So Wednesday coming up, 5 rounds for time, 18/12 calorie row/ski, 12 bar facing burpees, 6 power cleans, 155, 105.
Ooh.
The following Wednesday, 100/80 cal echo, 50 box jumps, step down, 25 power snatches.
That was gonna be.
That's gonna be nasty.
That's
Following Wednesday, for time, 50/40 calorie row, 40 toes to bar, 30 back squats, arcs plus overhead squat. The weight is 135.95.
ooh.
20 bar muscle ups, 10 power snatches at the same weight. The next Wednesday, 50/40 calorie ski, 500 meter run, 50 hang power clean to overhead, 50 bar facing burpees.
500 meter run.
This is exciting.
It's gonna be fun. Yeah, it'll be
Man.
and the burpees will be another one, like 50 burpees. We'll have a scale for that also.
I think
Right.
trying to think of the best way to say this. Thinking of like Thursdays versus thinking of Wednesdays, and like how you want to go about like that machine, like RPM and like pace wise,
Start to
is
learn.
gonna make a big difference.
Start to pay attention. Write it in the notes, like you said.
Yeah.
I was at 1300.
Pay
I tried
attention
to
to
get
your
to it. I
paces.
couldn't hold it.
I try to tell people, especially on days like Thursday, like start to build a relationship with
Yeah.
numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like get an idea about what numbers look like. Like if you talk to not even high level, but like mid-range and above athletes, like
Yeah.
they know, oh, I have 100 calories. Okay, this is what I'm holding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like start to build an awareness. It also makes things more fun if you're like thinking about what you're doing,
Yeah.
as opposed
And
to,
then you can
and it makes
guess your time on a workout before you even do it.
and it also
which
makes
is
it hurt
wild.
less. Instead of like getting in from a 1K run like on Thursday, and then because I see it all the time, and it happens mostly with more powerful guys. Well, they'll get on a rower and they'll be rowing at like 1,800 calories per hour, and you're
Yeah.
like, dude,
Yeah.
like
He's pointing at me.
what?
I held my
No,
time.
But I mean, if you
I
can hold it,
hold
if you
my
can
time,
hold
Trey.
it.
That's
But-
something like Trey that you're probably
But
thinking about.
your first calorie should be at the same pace as your last calorie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it can't be like that, like the example that I was giving to people on Thursday, like because people get in from their run and they just assess how they are at that exact
Right,
moment,
right.
and they're like, oh yeah, I can hold 18, and then it's literally just like a second to second thing,
Yeah.
and the equivalent to that would be like if somebody every morning woke up and checked their bank account and they were like, okay, I have $220. I'm gonna spend $220. Like spend all of your money if you spend all of your money every single day, you're literally not thinking about tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like if every moment that you're exercising as hard as you possibly can for that 1 second and not thinking about the seconds to follow,
Yeah.
like you have an empty bank account.
That's a good way of looking at it. I've never heard of it.
Then you start getting into crime, and you're looking for different ways to make money. Then you start multi-level marketing.
Oh.
You start getting into that.
Should we get Aaron in here?
I didn't say any names. You said the name. So
Dropped it quick, didn't you?
yeah. Don't get mad at me, Aaron. I wasn't talking
It's
about
all
you.
love, Aaron. I like that we do like just a singular like aerobic progression because that allows people to actually like understand their paces. And on Thursday, I was like bringing up the point of like it's cool going into like a 1K run now, and you guys like know your 1K pace because
Yeah.
you just did this entire running progression.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the goal with all the aerobic stuff that we'll be doing on Thursdays on the machines. Is like now you're gonna go into these workouts like Wednesday, for example, and you can kind of have a better idea of like what you should pace for on that bike
For
instead
sure.
of just getting on and being like, I hope I get off in time.
Yeah. Are we running again or no?
Sometimes.
What does that mean? Sometimes. What is that?
What were you asking?
Is the camera on or not?
Oh yeah.
Sometimes.
I thought
I'm
you
gonna
were-
start answering things
No, I
with
thought-
sometime.
No, I thought you meant literally running.
That's so good.
Oh my.
Was it sometimes?
Sometime. Okay, Kamala.
I spaced out.
Okay, Kamala.
Oh my goodness.
So for example, right, and I'll try to remember sometimes. So like bar muscle up. Yeah. So again, the workout this past day.
Yeah.
Past Friday, 4-bar muscle up, 7 shuttle run, 7/5 calorie echo. I think Jacob got 10:30. I think Matt Pinto got 10:40. I think Aaron got 10:50.
Yeah.
I think you got 11.
I was 11 something.
Yeah. So like everybody within a certain like arm's length of talent of one another in the movement. Like 4-bar muscle ups is unbroken for everybody. So what are you gonna do?
Right.
You gotta run faster. You gotta bike faster.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah. So that gives it highlights that movement it makes it so that you can look at it in a different way and you can get good at like going fast and other things,
Right.
but also having that high skill movement in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the minute rest, is that the same throughout the whole time? I forget.
The minute rest is there for 4 weeks and then it's gone.
And then it's an AMRAP.
Yeah.
Okay. Which like when I went into it, I was thinking of it more as like an AMRAP rather than like intervals. But then when I was done, I was almost like, I feel like I should have pushed the pace a little bit more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was weird. Like I've never done a workout and felt like that specific way. I don't know, like it was hard, but it was like obviously for me, like the shuttle runs was like, I mean probably for a lot of people, but the shuttle run, like 7 shuttle runs, it's a lot for me. So like I was like, how, like where do I push the pace on this? And then like bike, it was like okay, 15 seconds, and then just like you're done with that. But I was like overthinking how fatigued I would be after that amount, but I feel like I wasn't nearly as fatigued as I thought I was.
Yeah, I was telling people early on, like Trey, like you got to go fast right from the
Well,
beginning.
then he died on the last one,
Well, he shouldn't have died.
and so I was like, because I was like chasing him, and then he on the last few shuttles he was
tired.
like,
Look how big he is. He could do 70 on that bike.
Yeah.
Like, with like dead. So he just gives up sometimes when he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was his
I
last
caught
run,
him on
maybe
shuttle runs. That's saying a lot. Me catching something on shuttle runs, but I don't know.
But
I like
you also
it,
got to
though.
play it because Trey's one of those you talked about, like all those contractions with the similar
Yeah.
contractions. If a person doesn't know how to contract differently for like 135 versus 225,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that it's only 125 in his life because he's going to be just as tired.
For sure.
That's
So a good example of that. There was this guy that used to come here. His name's John Newhoff, freak athlete, a lot like you, just like just fast, strong. Some of the skill stuff wasn't great, you know what I mean? But just like he very fit dude.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we were working on with him was that with some of the higher skill stuff, because he wasn't super comfortable with it, and he had some shoulder issues. Like his mobility wasn't like outstanding, but because it was uncomfortable for him, you know, if you watched him, even I'll never forget, like I was watching him do a workout. It had like 135 pound shoulder to overhead, and he was like putting it over his head, and he was like his neck was stressed. He was like making faces, like he was like. Like it was everything was just so labored, and then you know that can get into the conversation of like parasympathetic versus sympathetic, and like what your body thinks it's doing. You know what I mean? Like your body doesn't think that you're working out. Working out's not something that your body knows as a thing. You're either dying or you're thriving. There's no working out in that option, in those options. You know what I mean? So John was making these like really aggressive faces, which led to aggressive contractions at a weight that he didn't have to make aggressive. So he would finish with 12 shoulder overhead, and he was fucking done. You know, he was so tired. But it's just another example of the same thing.
Yep. And you can watch a lot of people that they come out too hot, but it's not that they come out too hot. They come out like that. Wow.
Yeah.
Even like seeing a few people on the muscle ups or chest to bar when they throw themselves up.
Yeah.
They don't quite have business doing that. Maybe it's at the end of the workout, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I see people
And the
doing
workout's
it
a whole
from the
different story.
beginning, and that comes to like, okay, you don't quite have it. You probably couldn't do 20 with no time without missing one.
Yeah.
And I think if you get that down, I think gymnastics should be smooth. If you cycle one, it should be smooth. It's really about cycling reps.
Yeah.
So I think you
It's all
need
about
that
just being
base and
efficient.
control and be efficient with it, not just get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something that helped me out with this conversation was like, and I've told people to do this before. I call it like zombie mode. Like if I'll be in a workout, and sometimes I'll watch my workouts. I haven't done this in a long time, but if I would like watch the qualifier workout of myself, like my face is blank, and it's a defense mechanism because I want to try to convince my body that it's fine.
Yeah.
So like I don't
feel that.
so I don't want to look like, I don't want to make any faces that might lend my body to think that I'm not good right now.
Right.
So I go blank, whether
Yeah.
it's and you know that helps me out with keeping contractions at a cool pace. That helps me out with convincing my body that like a lion is not after me. you know what I mean?
It's so true though.
Because it's a similar conversation, and I forget exactly how it goes, but like you know, when you smile, certain things happen in your brain.
Yeah.
Well, when you frown, certain things happen in your brain, and when you clench your jaw, certain things happen in your brain. So like I try to go as like I call it zombie mode. Like I want to be almost expressionless so that my body doesn't. You're like all we're trying to do in the middle of a workout is keep our heart rate down.
Yeah.
And when you start to like express yourself in painful ways, because nobody's smiling. But when you start to express yourself in painful ways and you start to like contract your neck muscles, like your heart rate's gonna do nothing but go up.
Yeah. Well, and when you watch like Matt Frazier, Tia, like in like some of those competitions, you see their face like they're like calm the whole time. They don't really, they're not super expressive.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Good now? All right.
Sorry.
Nah, see, you know what's